welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tom Edge, and I'll be presenting service today along with Caitlin Ballinger. Kevin McClooney will be providing technical assistance. Thank you all so much for tuning in and attending today. We are glad that we can keep in touch and support our community even if we can't be together in person. Please be aware that we are recording this service and it will be posted on our Facebook and YouTube pages. We joined together this morning to seek justice, equality, and fairness in the world. Our hearts are touched by the human need we feel around us, whether far away or within reach of our hands. We come here to be together because this is how we believe our lives are best lived, in questioning and in conversation, in gratitude and in joy, in compassion, in service, in companionship, and in love. It is good to be together with you this morning. Please take a moment to think of all of your friends at MVUUC. Greet them here in person or with a comment in the chat box. And remember that you can still reach out to them via email, phone, social media, or video chat. Physical distancing does not need to mean emotional distancing. Let us support one another. Visitors, as we are a diverse group with varying interests and beliefs, our services are varied in format, tone, and topic. We encourage you to view or attend several services to gain a good understanding of our congregation. If you'd like to receive our weekly email newsletter, please email us at news, that's N-E-W-S, at mvuuc.org. MVUUC remains committed to supporting our members and friends during this difficult time of social distancing. For that reason, we are coordinating assistance with groceries, phone calls, and other needs. If this sounds like something that would be helpful to you, please send an email at sac@mvuuc.org with your name and what kind of assistance you would like to request. Now is the time for announcements. Announcements can be sent ahead of time to services@mvuuc.org to be read. If you have an important announcement now, you can raise your hand by clicking the raise hand button in the reactions tab at the bottom right of the Zoom window. Then we will announce your name and turn on your mic and camera so you can make your announcement yourself. I know we have, before we check that, I know we have one announcement today from Lisa Merrill Price, who could not be here. Lisa wanted to remind everyone, of course, that we do have our next blood drive coming up on July 10th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. If people would like to sign up to donate for that day, you can either visit redcrossblood.org or you can email Lisa at lisa.merrillprice@mvuuc.org and she'll help you get signed up. We're always also, of course, looking for volunteers to help with setup and takedown that day. So if you're interested in that, also reach out to Lisa. Any other announcements? Susan?
Hi, everyone. I just want to remind you that we're going to do July 3rd garage sale / yard sale. We're starting to gather some items, and I've started putting them in the area outside of the kitchen against the north wall here. So as you come to church next Sunday and the Sunday after, just bring things in, or give me a call if you need to stop by the church sometime other than that. I have the keys and I can let you in. And I will also need volunteers, of course, because we'll have probably 20 tables set up that day. And I'd like it to have at least one person per 2 tables, or one person per table, or something like that. Anyway, a lot of people that just stand there and watch the stuff and take the money.
How are we going to deal with the social distancing inside at the garage?
Well, we're discussing whether or not we're going to do it inside or outside. I don't know if we can really enforce the general public, asking the general public to put masks on, especially if they're fully vaccinated inside the building. I think we'll get some pushback from that and have some situations. We might have a table where we ask people to show their vaccination card. Maybe I haven't talked about this to anybody else, so I can't say, but I mean, that's what restaurants and certain places are asking. If you show your,
when you put the ad in the paper,
right,
make sure you mention something about that.
yeah. So we might actually end up having it outside just because we can't ask people to mask up inside. So we'll see. That's still up in the air, but in the meantime, I'm just getting things kind of organized, getting the stuff in, and we'll spend the week prior getting things priced and sorted and whatever. So let me know if you'd like to help out, either doing the sorting or during the setup, and just come in for 2 hours and help set up tables and get things rolling. I mean, whatever you can volunteer on that day would be great. So thanks.
I know we all appreciate that Susan took on this huge responsibility, and it means so much to the entire congregation. So anyone who is in a position to help, please reach out to Susan and do so. Kevin, did we have any other announcements? Anyone else here? All right, then I think we can move on. Yes.
Good morning.
Hi there.
I'm gonna teach you a song to light our chalice this morning. You all took so kindly to the Whoever You Are song. This is another one by Hal Walker, a Unitarian Universalist musician. So the words are in your order of service. I'll sing the first line and then we can try it together. And don't mind me, there are hand motions that go with this. So try them if you like, but there's one that's kind of like throwing a frisbee. Let's not smack our neighbors in the face.
Just talking to you, Susan.
We're having a good time. So that first line, may our chalice shine all through the night. Try it with me. May our chalice shine all through the night. Awesome. May our hearts be open. Let's try just that first half. May our hearts be open, and may our minds be still. And may our minds be still. May our truth be spoken.
May our truth be spoken.
And may our lives fulfill the promise.
And may our lives fulfill this promise.
This promise of peace.
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 Can we try it all together? So it says in there that first line is twice, and the last, that this promise of peace is just how we sing. Cool? So May our chalice shine all through the night. May our chalice shine all through the night. May our hearts be open, and may our minds be still. May our truth be spoken, and may our lives fulfill this promise of peace, this promise of peace, this promise of peace, this promise of peace. Thank you, that was lovely.
Our opening words this morning come from author James Baldwin. As a member of the NAACP, Medgar Evers was investigating the murder of a Black man, which had occurred months before, had shown me letters from Black people asking him to do this, and he had asked me to come with him. I was terribly frightened, but perhaps that field trip will help us define what I mean by the word witness. I was to discover that the line which separates a witness from an actor is a very thin line indeed. Nevertheless, the line is real. I did not have to deal with the criminal state of Mississippi, hour by hour and day by day, to say nothing of night after night. I did not have to sweat cold sweat after decisions involving hundreds of thousands of lives. I was not responsible for raising money or deciding how to use it. I was not responsible for strategy, controlling prayer meetings, marches, petitions, voting registration drives. I saw the sheriffs, the deputies, the stormtroopers, more or less in passing. I was never in town to stay. This was sometimes hard on my morale, but I had to accept, as time wore on, that part of my responsibility as a witness was to move as largely and freely as possible, to write the story and to get it out.
Our reflection today comes from Heidi Cotton, Bearing Witness. Here's a quiz about time travel posed by a friend of mine. Suppose you had a time machine, but it only went back in time to specific events. If you used the time machine, you could only be a witness. You could not influence the events in any way, and no one could be aware of your presence. Would you use it? Would you use the time machine if it would return you to a Cape Cod whale hunt where you would observe but could not interrupt the harpooning and slow death of a whale? Could you tolerate that? Would you watch Hannibal's crossing of the Alps in the Second Punic War, which resulted in the tortuous death of war elephants? Or Julius Caesar's death and betrayal? It's an interesting proposition, bearing witness to significant but uncomfortable moments in world history, changing nothing, but seeing the truth of it play out. Given the opportunity, do you think you would take advantage of this imaginary time machine? Bearing witness is an act of compassion, of empathy, of solidarity, and of justice. Bearing witness is holy. Humanity is at its most powerful and transformative when we experience the truth of one another. Some of you may be thinking to yourselves that you don't need to see pain up close and feel empathetic or to understand injustice. None of us here needs to observe from the edges of a slave auction to know how terrifying and depraved those auctions were. We don't need to spend a day at any of the 40,000 extermination and concentration camps from the World War II to know what happened in them is unspeakably horrific. Except, isn't it about knowing that these things were wrong? It's about understanding in our bones what it means that the history of genocide is now built into every Jewish family's DNA, and slavery into every African American's. It's about facing our sins against humanity. It's about knowing the crimes of which we are capable. Every day, news headlines are filled with evidence that we, as a country, have failed to fulfill the ideas of liberty and justice for all. We are a nation founded on the genocide of indigenous people and the enslavement of men, women, and children of Africa. In the two extreme examples I've already mentioned, American slavery and the Holocaust, there have been two vastly different outcomes. After the Second World War, Germany as a country faced what it had done. They looked at it squarely, without excuses or failed reasoning, and began to rebuild their country on the foundational premises that they could never, ever let it happen again. In fact, this is where the simple phrase, never forget, came from. It began as an admonishment to themselves to keep them from returning to the path of their vilest acts. Germany bore witness. America has not yet faced our history of slavery, nor the malicious colonization and oppression of indigenous peoples. We did not come out of that time and acknowledge what we'd done. Instead, we made excuses or tried to compromise with racism in other ways. Some looked away in apathy, others have looked away in discomfort. We cannot yet make it right because we do not yet bear witness to our truth. Every week, Black Americans are murdered because we haven't been able to reconcile our past and rebuild from it. Children are being held in cages and camps because we have not yet bore witness to our own concentration camps of World War II. We still want to call them internment camps and justify that they weren't the death camps of Auschwitz or Dachau. It is easy to look away right now. This is hard and uncomfortable and terrifying. Bearing witness to what is happening around us now is hard. It's also easy to feel hopeless. We are on a path bloodied with our past violence and walking towards war and genocide. I implore you today, do not turn away and do not lose hope. Face what we are doing and have done. Find hope that there are more and more voices rising against our sins. And if you cannot find hope, then become it. Ready your lives to be the sanctuary for others. If you'll pray now with me. God of our hearts, Spirit of life, we humble ourselves before love. We take our knees in protest of the violent acts against humanity, and we commit ourselves to the work of abundant love and healing. We face ourselves as individuals and as people. We acknowledge our complicity in racism, xenophobia, and the brokenness which allows them to flourish in these lands. We see the harm we are inflicting on others and the new cycle of brokenness we cause. We commit ourselves to the work of abundant love and healing. We do not turn away from the victims of mass incarceration, police brutality, depraved immigration policies, oppression of human rights and freedom. We hold the entirety of the experience, their suffering and our responsibility, as we commit ourselves to the work of abundant love and healing. We see each other's tears and know how we play a part. We commit ourselves to the work of abundant love and healing. We humble ourselves to each other, knowing we cannot change the past, but we can build a different future. We commit ourselves to the work of love and abundant. God of our hearts, Spirit of life, we commit ourselves to the abundant love and healing and the work that comes with it. Amen.
I'll be handling the UU principal connection this morning. And as I was thinking of how to respond, I couldn't help but think of how appropriate the timing was, not just for where we are in general in the world right now, but also this particular weekend. Yesterday was the anniversary, of course, of both the Pulse shooting in Orlando and the assassination of Medgar Evers. Yesterday should have been Anne Frank's 92nd birthday. All key reminders that, of course, we are not very far removed from some of the things that we often think of as simply history. This week, the Pulitzer Prize Selection Committee announced that it was awarding a special commendation to Darnella Frazier, the teenager who filmed the murder of George Floyd a year ago. Online, the reactions to this were mixed. Some celebrated the news as a necessary recognition of how journalism has expanded to each one of us through new technology, not to mention the impact of Frazier's decision to continue filming. Others felt it was tokenism, at best, and an opportunistic way of turning this wrenching moment in a teenager's life into a feel-good story for the rest of us. Regardless of how you feel about the decision itself, Frazier's actions show us the importance of bearing witness in our own time. None of us know the long-term ramifications that come when we refuse to turn away. Nobody could have predicted that this instance would have unleashed the longest sustained protest in American history last year, nor the various reverberations we still feel in 2021. As Unitarian Universalists, bearing witness feeds into every one of our principles in some way. In acknowledging the suffering and oppression of others, we see their shared humanity, our common connection, and the value of each individual life. But more than this, we can consider the impact it has on the decisions we make within our congregations and communities. As Frazier showed us, witnessing at its best is an active process. It should do more than move us, it must move us to act. Our second principle, our devotion to justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, reminds us of the very point that today's reflection tried to emphasize. Rather than feeling overwhelmed by the pain of others, witnessing provides us an opportunity to remake the world anew. The decisions we make as congregants and congregations should be guided by an honest assessment of the world around us. And whether we like it or not, that means we need to engage the difficult questions of our own time. In taking up this difficult work, we should also remind ourselves of the flip side of bearing witness, the possibility of grace. It is easy to focus on the difficulty in witnessing, on what it means to empathize with people who are experiencing real suffering. But witnessing can also remind us of the people who are fighting back, the people who are modeling behaviors we wish to emulate, the people who show the type of courage we want to embody ourselves. As someone who teaches about racism for a living, I often face the question, how can you teach difficult and uncomfortable subjects day after day? I try to remind them that this is only half the story. I remind them of the importance of resistance, even when that resistance seems futile. I remind them of how many people were inspired to take action because they were forced to bear witness. Unitarian Universalists have long been on the front lines of those battles. Think of how many people within our faith helped to publicize the atrocities and evils of the modern world, driven by the hope that others would join them to create positive change. As one hymn states, we are a gentle, angry people. What we do with that anger is up to us. Now more than ever, we're counting on your pledge payments to not go to the next page. On your pledge payments and donations to help sustain and strengthen this congregation that is so important to all of us, supporting our efforts to be a community of love, truth, justice, and service. Please click on the link in the chat box or scan the QR code and be sure to select the correct designation on the drop-down box when you donate. For those in person, we are encouraging folks to still donate online. It helps make the process much, much easier. So if you have an electronic device and can get in, please do so. Thank you very much. Now is the time for sharing of joys, concerns, and
We'll say one more prayer, one more song. We will sing one more song till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song. Thank you. One more stone for nature being part of our service. To see is passive. It is almost something that has happened to you. But to look is active. There is a choice of focus to looking. To look is to contemplate. The original Latin, contemplationem, plationum. I did not study Latin. The original Latin means to mark out a space for observing, to gaze attentively, observe, consider. We are living in a world where we have been distanced, separated, and lost one another. Unspeakable violence is occurring every day, and many of us are waking up to systems of oppression for the very first time. As we come back together, let us be active participants in this life we share. May we begin by carving out space to observe, opening our eyes and looking, contemplating, bearing witness to the world around us. Let us look such that our friends, neighbors, systems, and siblings on this earth are seen honestly. The act of looking can be a prayer. Just as we would strive to be understood, seen, may we offer that humble act of service to those around us. Only then can we heal and change and grow.
please join me in reading the words for extinguishing our chalice that can be found as a comment in the chat box or in your order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but not the spark of connection found here today. May we carry this with us in our actions as we go out into the world. After the closing song, for those online, you can turn on your videos and mics. We welcome you to stay in Zoom and chat with your fellow MVUUC members and friends for a coffee hour. Those attending in person, if you are comfortable doing so, please feel free to stay and chat or to help us move tables and chairs back into the table. Did I say to the table? God, I'm out of it this morning. Now for our closing song, let us sing Go With the Song in Your Heart. You can find the words as a comment in the Zoom chat box or in the front cover of your hymnal.
Go with the song in your heart. Go with music in your soul. Leave with the memory of a melody. Go with a song in your heart. Go with the song in your heart. Go with the now until we meet again. The joy of music is our gift to you. Go with a song in your heart. Leave with the memory of a melody. Go with the song. Go with the song. Go with the song in your heart.